On September 24th into the 25th, over a period of 2 hours and 6 minutes, I captured, using 120-second exposures, a very small asteroid. This is asteroid Victoria 12. It's only 75 miles in diameter and is thought to be elongated and oddly shaped, possibly even having a small moon of its own. In this video, I'm going to show you how I processed it in PixInsight and made an animation in PiPP. In an earlier video, I mentioned to you that you might want to try to image something new if you're tired of imaging the same old stuff. And I showed you specifically how to find asteroids using telescopius.com. I mentioned at that time that Victoria 12 may be available to you in the night sky at this time. So usually when I pick a target like this, I will go to Wikipedia and a number of other sources to gather data. It's a very small entry on this particular asteroid. It's actually classified as a minor planet, Victoria 12. It is a large main belt asteroid. It was discovered on September 13th, 1850 by an English astronomer by the name of J.R. Hind. The image I have at the bottom is also from the Wikipedia page, and this is made by light curve inversion. Now, light curve inversion is not an exact science. You can look into it, but basically it's taking repeated images over a short period of time to look at the magnitude of the light being reflected in order to try to determine the shape of the object. We can see that it has dimensions of maybe in the ballpark of 120 kilometers, which is about 75 miles. It has a magnitude that ranges from about 8.6 to 12.8, an orbital period of about 3.5 years, and it's moving along quite quickly at 19.5 kilometers per second. So let's go ahead and dive in, and I'll show you how I process this in PixInsight. So first thing I like to do is open Blink, and I want to take a quick look at the images because I know from my all-sky camera that at the end of the evening I had quite a bit of cloud cover. So I can open these up and stretch them, and when I look at what I have, I can see that I did have some clouds at the end of the evening. So I may choose to get rid of a little bit of what we have at the end. Also notice that you can see my prism cutting into the image at the bottom, and I also have vignetting. For this particular video, I'm not going to worry about some of this. I'm not going to actually calibrate these frames because I'm going to crop quite a bit to get in close to the object. So now that I have a feel for what I have as far as frames, the next thing I'm going to do is align these frames. So I'll use star alignment. I'm going to choose a frame at the beginning of the evening as the reference, one where I didn't have clouds, and then I'll add the rest of the images to be aligned, and I'll turn off drizzle. I have no need to drizzle this. I'll also go ahead and create an output folder. In this case, it'll just be reg for my registered files, and I'll go ahead and submit this. And I'm going to speed up a lot of these slower processes. Okay, so now that alignment is done, we can close this out. And let's just go take a look at what we have here. I'm going to go grab one of the early evening images and one of the late evening images. And this will be important based on how I'm going to process this. So you can see the early evening image is here and the late evening image is here, and I'm just going to slide that one down so I can keep them in order in my head. So the next thing I'm going to do is crop this image. So I'm going to use dynamic crop, and I'm going to go ahead and crop out the vignetting and the prism that cuts in at the bottom. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to save it to the desktop, and then I'm going to apply it to the second image, the late evening image, and then I'm going to go ahead and apply it to the initial image, and I'm going to leave those just the way they are. The next thing I'm going to do is some background extraction, and I'm just going to do automatic background extraction. This is just going to be quick and dirty processing. So I'm first going to do ABE with subtraction, discarding the background model and replacing the target. I'll do it on the first image, the second image, and now I'll save that as well to the desktop. I'll stretch both images to take a look, and again, because I didn't do any calibration, we're going to have some noise and we'll have some artifacts, but that's okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and do this again, but this time I'm going to do it with division. I'm going to do it to both images. I'm going to take this and add it to the desktop again. And now I've applied 2 rounds of ABE to try to get rid of any of that background noise and cloud cover. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I'm just going to do a linear fit just to try to get the backgrounds to be clean. I'm going to do that based on the early evening image. So I'm going to grab the early evening view and I'm going to use that to linear fit the second image. Now again, the reason I'm doing this is within an animation, if you don't linear fit them, you may end up with some flickering if you've got uneven backgrounds across all the images. Okay, now here's something a lot of you may never have done before in PixInsight. I'm going to use something called a process container. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put those 4 processes in the process container in order. This is going to allow me to apply the entire process container to a list of images. So what I'm going to do is open an image container here. Now what I add to the image container are all of my star-aligned or registered images. I can then create an output folder and I'll do process container out or PC_out as a destination. Now I can save this to the desktop and close it. So now I've got a process container and an image container, and I'm going to go ahead and drag the process container onto the image container and speed this up dramatically. Basically, what's going to happen is the process list is going to go through every single image and then output the resulting file. So it's going to do a dynamic crop, 2 rounds of ABE, a linear fit based on the image I left open on the desktop, and then output the file. And it's going to do that for everything in that image container. Okay, when this is done processing, we can see all of those files are there. We can go ahead and close the images on the desktop. I no longer need those. And we're going to go ahead and we'll blink this again. Let's go blink the output files. So we'll close everything that's in here. We'll go into our PC out folder. We'll select all of those new images and we'll go ahead and open them. And then stretch them. And then we'll just run through them here. And we'll start to animate them here in Blink. And you'll notice the first painful thing is that we actually have a dust mote, right? So something that would have been calibrated out in the bottom left, but I don't think I'm going to need that because if you look down here, you can see we have some movement. That's Victoria 12. We also have a whole lot of satellites and other objects, but I'm just going to leave those for our animation. So now I want to output these files, and I'm going to do that directly from Blink. I can use the crop capability in Blink, but I'm actually going to use the crop and create video. Now, I don't have the necessary supporting files to create the video, but that's okay. It'll actually go ahead and export all these files as JPEG, which is what I'll need for my next step. So I'm going to go ahead and create a preview, which will be my cropping area. And you can see I'm cropping out my dust mote. I'm going to go ahead and select all of the files. It's important you highlight all of those files before clicking the icon. And then I can go down, change this from PNG to JPEG, set an output location. Here I'll just call it Blink Out. I can go ahead and run this even though I don't have FFmpeg installed for this purpose. Notice what it does first is crops the images and outputs them as JPEG for me. Then at the very end, you'll get an error because it can't create the video, but that's okay. I'm going to create the video elsewhere. Now it's important you make sure the list of files in that folder are from beginning of night to end of night, so the next step in PiPP will work correctly. So now we open PiPP, drag our files over, and there's not a whole lot you have to do here in PiPP. I'll step through the screens, but for the most part, we're just going to be creating a basic animation. So our source files are here. We don't have any specific input options that we really need to change. There's nothing from a processing perspective that I need to change. If you wanted to do any additional cropping or resizing, you certainly could do that here. We don't have any quality estimations or anything like that. That's typically for planetary. Now, on our animation, we do want to do some things here. We are going to play all the frames forward, and I am going to pause at the end of each forward play just for 1 frame. I'm not going to reverse. And then I am going to repeat the sequence, and I said right now I'm going to repeat it 1 time. Now I'm going to change this to animated GIF. And notice when I do that, it's going to repeat indefinitely, so it doesn't matter how many repeats you had defined previously. I'm going to leave the rest of the output data the same, except for the frame rate. Now you may, depending on how many frames you have, choose 5 or 10 or 15 or 20. Because I did 120-second frames and I only had about 2 hours worth of data, I'm going to go ahead and do 5 frames per second. I'm going to go ahead and start processing. This will take a little time, but I'm going to speed it up. Now at the very end here, you can see I've just dragged this into a browser, and here we go. And you can see the animation at the bottom, and let's zoom in. This is Victoria 12, a minor planet or asteroid in the main asteroid belt, just 75 miles in diameter over a 2-hour period. Again, there's a lot of people out there you share videos with that are going to love seeing pictures of the moon, but this is the stuff that gets me excited. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, let me know. Clear skies.